Good morning, everybody. I hope you can hear me. I hope you can see me. I hope you actually want to hear and see me. Let me check what the stream says. All right, stream seems to be going. Yes, here we go. I can hear myself, and I hope you can hear me now as well. And yeah, it's Wednesday, the 5th of February. I have not checked the news yet. I am very happy about that. We will see how that goes in the next couple of minutes, hours, or whatever. And yeah, the goal is once again to do 2 sprints of 45 minutes, and maybe have some chatting in between, and then I fuck off and go to the gym or whatever. Yeah, I did read a lot yesterday. Obviously, I did finish The Wretched of the Earth in the morning, and then I spent the rest of the day reading Fight Like Hell by Kim Kelly, which I can very much recommend if a history of labor struggles in the US is something you want to read. Hey, Jen, how you doing? Heyo, how are you doing? Now, as I read Fight Like Hell by Kim Kelly, which is really good. It looks at a lot of the interesting stuff, right? Like it takes labor history in the US, but it pays attention and has a focus on the sort of the groups that are often marginalized by a lot of labor history. So you focus a lot on like women organizing, women going on strikes, women unionizing, that kind of stuff, on people of color unionizing. It has a chapter on labor struggles within the sex work community, and one on labor organizing, striking, and fighting for labor protections and so forth for people with disability, and even a chapter on unionizing in prison labor, which you know, pretty good, I would say. Yeah, I can understand that. That's the time difference. But I don't want to start an hour earlier. That's 7 a.m. for me. I don't think that's that's a healthy way for me to start the day. But that's why we do, evening sprints. Not sprints, but like evening streams from time to time when I, sit down at like 8 p.m. my time, and then that's 12 hours later. So on weekends, I hope that you have more time to hang out. Which book do you mean, Jin, as a good book that you should read? The Wretched of the Earth or Fight Like Hell? I mean, I would argue both are really good reading, but I really enjoyed the breadth that Fight Like Hell covers with just an overview of like different labor struggles and why they are important and so forth. And yeah, got to figure out what to read next. I have The Incorruptibles by, is it called Dan Sattler? Stadler? One of those. Would have to look up the author. The second one, okay. No, you never know. I mean, there are people who don't know what The Wretched of the Earth actually is. So uh, I guess the times where everyone read that book in the 60s and 70s are unfortunately also past. No, as like people around here in my orbit, maybe that's also like a German thing, but not that many people like friends were like, "Oh, what are you reading on the Wretched of the Earth?" And they're like, "What's that?" And I thought I thought everyone knew what that book was, but you get surprised. Hey, Britton, how you doing? Yeah. So as I said, The Incorruptibles by whatever his name is. Um, which is about organized crime in New York in the early 20th century, and how that intersects once again with the political machine and with progressive agendas at the time, progressive agendas and all of that. You can see I'm doing my research, which is, something I'm good at. I'm just not good at doing anything with the research afterwards. Well, at least you did did get some writing done. That's a good start. I did not manage to record the Pirates video yesterday, which is bad because it means I really have to record it today, no matter what, and so forth. But what can you do? Sometimes things just don't shake out the way they could or should. So yeah, that's probably what I'm gonna read today during the day. That the Incorruptibles book, which is from 2024. It's the one that made me so angry at I had Goodreads reviews. One would argue that when government in New York was still done by Tammany Hall and thus very much by organized crime, it actually worked much better than it does now. So that's an interesting argument you could make. At least, I mean, that's what Machine made up to a point. What Terry Galway looks at is how Tammany Hall sort of like very corrupt sort of system of patronage is the foundation for welfare measures that basically culminated in the New Deal, with people that came straight from Tammany Hall, like Robert Wagner, and people that were kind of connected to that, like Francis Perkins, how they were highly influential in shaping, the New Deal and basis of, labor protections, and basis of what you might call the rudimentary bits and pieces of welfare state that the U.S. At least allowed itself to have for a while there. So, yeah, there's an argument to be made that actually having organized crime as government might actually work out better. Um, I mean, there are, the government and organized crime certainly intersect in a lot of ways, because the thing with organized crime is, of course, that it is fairly powerful and a powerful economic factor. And as we all know, government is often beholden to, uh, certain powerful, economically powerful interest groups, and organized crime is certainly one of them. So, yeah, unironically, yes. um, but yeah, I'm looking forward to the whole to reading that the Incorruptibles book. No, it made me super angry at or frustrated with with Goodreads reviews, because I just scrolled over the Goodreads reviews and people were complaining about the book having a poor plot and having very badly written characters, and well, it's a nonfiction book. What you're expecting? It's history. It even the audiobook has a downloadable PDF with sources and footnotes and stuff. And the next review was like complaining that they didn't read the book because it had too many footnotes. And I'm like, you're doing this wrong. Maybe fighting literacy is actually a good thing, because it leads to less people coming up with like this kind of stuff. Like how can you pick up a book that clearly says nonfiction on every label and goes like, well, I've picked up these sources, this is from interviews, this is from these open sources and so forth, that says all of that in the fucking prologue, now, prologue, like preface, whatever you want to call it, right? That says all of that. How can you go and say, well, the characters kind of suck in this one? It's like, complain to the universe, please, for that one. My favorite food, that's a good question. Um, I'm not someone who focuses a lot on food. It's one of those things that, like, being a student for a long time kind of means that uh, food preferences are very much on the what is easy to get and what is cheap kind of thing. I do really enjoy like Greek food. Every time when I go to Greece, we go to several places that have like just excellent food that I really enjoy there. But I am not that much of a food specialist. Yeah, yeah, something like that, Jin. Very much that. Is like I've come across that recently a couple of times with like good read reviews that are super popular, and everyone's like, how can you just read the fucking manual, read the back cover? It says nonfiction, it says history book, and the same with like a book, the thing with like that had all those pirate sources, and I had like, and it's like I couldn't get through this. It was clearly ahistorical. I mean, yeah, no shit. These are texts that are 150 years old. They don't, of course they are, but it once again, it says so on the cover. It even, it's like, how can you? It's just like very frustrating. Hey, Apollo, and hey, Ori. Um, no, as I said, like it's just like one of those things that I feel like appreciating different kinds of food or having a developed taste when it comes to food is something that takes time and takes opportunity and so forth. And I have never focused much on that. Guess that's a fault of mine, but also just a lack of opportunity in a lot of ways. All right, everybody, shall we proceed to the first sprint where we try to be productive, reply to emails, read books, write books, plan the revolution? I don't know what else is on your on your to-do list for the morning. I think that's a good thing to do. I certainly need to do some communication stuff that's always hard in the morning. To be fair, it's always hard. Communication is not something I'm good at. Or at least communication in a formalized communication, writing emails, messaging people to ask for specific things. That's not something I'm good at. Well, I mean, that's just like a way you can eat a lot of cheese in a lot of ways. Like have the like huge like wheels of cheese is just something you get a lot of. Germany does have cheese. Obviously, France has more cheese, but I am a huge fan of cheese in most versions. So I am with you there. All right, let's do the sprinting thing, and I can make the next batch of tea as well, which sounds like a helpful thing to do. And I am back. How did y'all do? Hey, Bex. Good morning. Well, I mean, good evening for you. So yeah, I agree. Pizza is, of course, a wonderful thing. I mean, as I said, I'm a student. I was a student for a long time. I even studied computer science, and that means lots of pizza over the years. And I agree, it's very difficult to fuck up pizza. I've seen it happen, but it's only been once or twice in situations where I kind of knew beforehand that it would be not exactly good. So yeah, pizza definitely one of those things. I mean that's like one of the reasons why fast food in general, I guess, is so successful. And I'll just count pizza as a form of fast food for now. Is exactly that, right? It's fairly simple to make. It's easy to sort of like formalize the process of making it and get relatively consistent results. And it's very, very hard to fuck up. I mean, same goes for like a doner kebab or something like that, right? It's unless the actual meat is bad, which same thing happening with pizza. If like the actual stuff you put on your pizza is bad, then your pizza will be bad. But like beyond that, it's very difficult to fuck up any of that stuff. So yeah, these are my thoughts on pizza. I did do some of the things I wanted to do, which are, of course, messaging people, setting up meetings, that kind of stuff, which is good, I guess. And I did read one chapter in the book, The Incorruptibles. It's Dan Slater. Now I remember the name. I mean, I looked it up, and it's interesting. One of the things I found really interesting is like, obviously, I'm currently focusing um, on the sort of like late 19th, early 20th century and New York and that area for certain reasons. But it's interesting if you read books. And I mean, obviously, as someone who studied history at university, I kind of knew that, and I kind of know that. But it's interesting with these, let's call them public facing or pop science, pop history nonfiction books, right? They're not necessarily, published by Yale University Press, only available in one specific place and so forth. Books. These are by big mainstream publishers, supposed to sell a lot of books. And what's interesting is how, even for a fairly well documented era, right? We're talking, I don't know, 1890 to 1920 New York, right? It's a really well documented era with both, official sources and newspapers and potentially even still like private letters, diaries, interviews with family members, all of that stuff. We have a lot of stuff for that specific era, and even there, you see how different sort of like that those books are like. Which I think, I mean, obviously, as I said, if you study history, you kind of know that history or historiography is is mostly narrativizing, picking sources and coming up with a narrative. But it's just kind of interesting, like on the small level, when you compare Fight Like Hell, which once again, really good book, and you should really read it if you want to learn about labor struggles by mostly marginalized people, including the troubles that Mohawk iron workers had to go through when they were hired to do a lot of construction in New York, and were supposed to no longer come in because part of their part of them were living on the Canadian side of a border on their lands that they have been living in before for a long time, and they had to protest and sue and so forth to get that done. So really cool bits and pieces and stories about women working in mines, in coal mines, and having to fight for their right to work in coal mines, and then the stuff that comes afterwards. Once again, really good book. But what's interesting is that because of that specific sort of focus on untold parts of labor history. Kim Kelly focuses heavily on Frances Perkins as Labor Secretary for FDR, and the sort of like the laws she introduced, the ideas she brought to the table, and so forth, which makes a lot of sense. Don't get me wrong. I'm trying to point out sort of like how far different narratives that even are sort of like go down the same direction in a lot of ways can still differ. So Kim Kelly focuses heavily on Frances Perkins there, whereas Machine Made, which obviously covers, at least in that specific place, the same story of Frances Perkins coming into contact with Tammany Hall as a reformer at the time, ending up as Labor Secretary with FDR, and once again, like first woman in a cabinet position in the U.S. ever. Anyway, so focuses on not so much on Frances Perkins. Obviously, comes up and gets is quoted and so forth. But since Terry Galway's position is more on a position, but like goal is to look at the influence of the Tammany Hall machine on progressive and labor politics and so forth. The focus there is on, is it Robert Wagner, who was also part of the FDR administration. I just keep forgetting which position he had, but obviously introduced the Wagner Bill and other like mainstream, like big New Deal legislation as well, and Frances Perkins as Labor Secretary is mentioned as well. But the focus there that like Robert Wagner did things together with Frances Perkins, whereas Kim Kelly mostly talks about Frances Perkins and basically ignores Robert Wagner for that. I'm just assuming it was Robert and not Thomas, but German names all sound the same. So that's something I found really interesting, because both authors are at the end of the day looking at sort of progressive labor politics and progressive labor legislation coming out of the late 19th, early 20th century New York atmosphere in a lot of ways, but because one is focusing on the influence of the Tammany Hall machine, the way that caring for newly arrived immigrants in a lot of ways through that specific structure of patronage kind of led to welfare legislation, whereas the other looks at the influence and impact of marginalized groups, leads to focusing on different characters. And I guess it's not about the truth there, it's about different narratives. And the Dan Slater book that I started now, which came out last year, 2024, so it's even newer than Fight Like Hell, which is from 2021. So far, Tammany Hall is just a hive of scum and villainy and corruption, which obviously is another narrative you can tell about Tammany Hall politics. And it'll be interesting to see how how the narrative will continue. Obviously, I'm only like 2 chapters in, so there's a lot of time to look at, the era around Charlie Murphy and Al Smith, and once we get to the Triangle Shirtwaist Factory fire and those bits and pieces, and how those things, how the time of like clearly Tammany Hall politics of Al Smith were doing a lot of like the progressive things that other progressive reformers kind of failed to do. We'll see if Slater manages how Slater manages to tell that narrative. But it's interesting to see how easy it is to tell very, very different stories about a very well documented and very short piece of time, and that's certainly something that I obviously as someone who's studied history, I'm aware of that. But it's interesting to see that play out in public facing stories in mainstream published history books. So yeah, not sure what to make of that in the long run, if it's worth talking about in like a video or anything, but it's certainly something I found remarkable while reading right now. So yeah, what else was there really nothing much more. I opened the text file to make more notes on the whole Service Magician project for now. That's certainly something I will continue working on. I feel a bit of a cold coming on. I don't know if that's just because it's winter or because going to the gym and then standing on a bus stop in the freezing weather is, well, not necessarily the most healthy thing one can do. We'll see how bad it gets, but it's certainly something I need to take into account when it comes to planning the next couple of days and all of that. I will stream tomorrow and on Friday. I have my doctor's appointment on Friday at 12, which means, first of all, I'm surprised that that kind of surgery is scheduled for Friday noon, and and that specific doctor is still working at that time. But it also means I have no idea how if I will be able to talk, how much I will be able to talk, and so forth, on Saturday, on Sunday, or even on Monday. So I guess I'll have to keep you updated on my ability to do any of that once I'm back from the doctor. But yeah, we'll cross that bridge when you get there. Yeah. Beyond that, I don't have much else to add. I'm gonna go back and do some productive stuff. Figure out figure out what to do with my with that dentist appointment. Since it's surgery, I should probably ask a friend if they can pick me up afterwards and get me back home because maybe getting home on my own with the bus and everything is not the smartest thing after people put you under for like a surgery bit. Maybe look at me being responsible for once. Insane. Let's try to not make turn that into a habit, right? All right, I'll be back shortly before 10 and my time, and I wish you a lot of well success with whatever you are doing, and don't forget to drink whatever makes you happy at this day or time of day, which is tea for me, might be coffee for you, might be something to help you go to sleep if you are out there on the other side of the ocean. And I am back. How are you guys doing? Did you do anything? I sure hope so. Yeah. Did some more messaging and stuff, which is apparently what I need to do. Took some notes, and that's that. Yeah, I mean, as said, like the dentist appointment is at 12, which means I can totally stream and then get to the doctors in very good time. It's not that far after all. It's more that I could either do gym or streaming, and I feel that maybe going to the gym to work out before going to the dentist is probably less of a good idea compared to just sitting here and drinking tea and then going to the dentist. But that's just like an idea. Hey Kale, how you doing? And good evening. Yeah, it's 10. I'd better get my shit together if I want to go to the gym. I mean, if I want to get the earlier bus. So that's what I'm going to do now. And yeah, I wish y'all a good day. Hope you get stuff done. I hope it's not going to be too bad, all of the good things. And yeah, I'll talk to you hopefully about pirates later today or tomorrow morning when I talk about why I didn't make the video about pirates. We'll find out how that one goes, right?